Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds, number 60. So this is where I like to collect together all the new music that I've purchased over the past week and present it to you. And of course I get it from different places like my local record stores, but also online from places like Amazon, eBay, and more. And for this past week I've got 6 new music finds to go through with you, which breaks down as 3 new releases and 3 catalog releases, and we'll jump into all of that in just a bit. But before we do, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with New Music Finds, episode number 60. All right. So I've got my 6 things here to go through with you. We are going to kick off with new releases, and I've got 3 of them, which all came from Amazon. Interestingly, my local record store wasn't stocking any of them, which is, no real big surprise these days. First one up was actually delayed through Amazon even. So I hope that just means it was selling really well, but I tend to think it means they didn't bring in enough copies of it. It was a big release for me, one that I was really looking forward to. Black Swan, Generation Mine. It's their 2nd album. And of course, this is the super group. And the reason that I'm such a big fan of them is their lead guitar player, Reb Beach. This guy, I've always really enjoyed his guitar playing. I just think that he's kind of second to none. And there's not really anyone that sounds like he does. And still to this day, he is churning out work that I think is as good as the stuff that he was doing back in the late 80s and early 90s when he first started off with Wingers. So along with him, though, we've got Robin McAuley on vocals coming from Michael Schenker Group and or Macaulay Schenker Group. We've also got Jeff Pilson from Dokken, and then we've got Matt Starr on drums from Mr. Big. So, I mean, the lineup there, Robin McAuley coming back and finally doing a lot of stuff. You know, also having Jeff Pilson, who is around doing things, but he's been with Foreigner. Foreigner hasn't recorded a new album in ages. He hasn't really been working on a lot of stuff. So again, putting all those guys together in this group here, really cool. And it is a Frontiers project. However, they are writing their own music. They're producing themselves. And the fact that this has gone beyond one album shows it is more than just a Frontiers project. So super excited for this, really enjoying it. Haven't decided which album I like better. The debut itself seemed to have much more variety of material, but I do think that this one here has much more of the same style, but much more of that stuff that we really love, that shred fest sort of style guitar and everything on it. So I'm a little bit leaning towards this right now, but it may be because it's brand new and we'll have to wait and see in time. But really good album. If you like the debut, if you like Dokken, if you like Winger, definitely check out this stuff here. All right, another one that was high on my list and excited to get, Joe Satriani, The Elephants of Mars. This is his 19th studio album, and it came in really cool packaging here. Let me just show this to you. So it is a cardboard packaging release. It's obviously not a jewel case, but it's got some very cool art in it. And then when you open it up here, you see that the way the disc is held behind this die cut sleeve, which is pretty cool. And then in here, we've got these art prints. So instead of the traditional booklet in here, these pieces of art are all created by Joe Satriani himself. He's recently fancied himself an artist and has been having art shows and things of that nature. So they've reproduced some of that art here. And what this is, I believe there's, I think there's 14 tracks or so, however many cards there are, because these are actually all 2-sided. So each one of those has a title of a song on it and is referencing it in that way. But I thought that packaging was pretty cool and definitely worthwhile, simply beyond just the regular sort of cardboard packaging release. You know, we all generally prefer the jewel case, but if you're gonna make something in the cardboard, the digipack or whatever, at least do something a little special with it. And this one here did that. And so Haven't listened to this one a whole lot here, but my first impressions on it is that the music is slower than some of the past albums we've been getting. There's not quite as full-on shred style type stuff, but the songs themselves do have a lot more groove to them too. So I don't know if that was something he was going for. Don't know if after listening to it a bit more, I may come up with a different impression on it. I really like the album, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this thing is, you know, sleepy in any way because it is slower music. It's just not some of the more speed style shred playing that he has done on some of his previous albums. But very good and definitely worth checking out. All right, and then next up was a cool one here. It's an archival release coming from Aerosmith called 1971, The Road Starts Here. And as you see, this one is in a jewel case. So this was pretty cool. Not something that would have expected to come in the jewel case, considering this one here got an early release during Record Store Day back on November 26th of 2021, and that was vinyl and cassette. I kind of would have thought this one here would have been the cardboard packaging as well on it. Curious, I don't know. This one here came with a really big book with a nice write-up and everything in it. I don't know if that was included in the vinyl versions of it and or even with the cassette. I got the cassette. I chose not to open mine, so I don't know. But this here has a really nice booklet explaining everything, which was pretty cool to get. And so the release itself, as I mentioned, it's an archival release, and it is the earliest known recordings of the band. So not quite live, not quite studio, but very good quality. It's got 7 songs on it, 5 of which would turn up later on the debut. Now the debut comes out 1973, so this is 2 years earlier than that. They're not exactly sure when the time frame and where it was recorded and stuff like that, which I found kind of interesting. I guess it's just too long ago. They did this, the tapes disappeared and only recently resurfaced. There's also 2 tracks on here that would appear on later albums that didn't appear on the debut. We've got Reefer Head Woman, which would appear on 1979's Night in the Ruts, and Major Barber, which was a studio outtake that would later appear on Classics Live that came out in 1986. So it was a studio track that was tacked onto that to make it a little more worthwhile to the fans. So cool thing about that is those 2 versions recorded in 1971 are much more straight ahead blues rock, whereas the ones that came later on have that more polished Aerosmith sound. So all of these early versions have subtle differences and things to them than the versions we would later hear, you know, a few years on, or whether, you know, not until 79 or whatever. But making this worthwhile, in my opinion. If you're a fan of Aerosmith, you know, a diehard collector, whatnot, makes it worthwhile. You're not just picking up some live album or demo album or whatever. All right, so very good. And also, I did do a full review of this, so I'm going to be leaving a link in the description to that. And so you'll get to see the booklet and everything that way and so forth. And of course, I go into much more detail on everything. And so I also picked up 3 catalog albums. Those are things that are just been out for a long time, still in print, been able to order it off of Amazon. And so first one up, I'd gotten into a Southern rock kick over the last week. If you saw this past week's What's That You're Listening To, you saw a lot of it there. So I ordered a 38 special album, Wild Eyed Southern Boys, 1981. 4th studio album. This one I did not have in the collection. I don't know if you can see it here, but it says that it came out in 1979 on the back of here, and I don't know why that is. It was recorded in 79 and 80. Perhaps that's where they got the date wrong on it. Who knows? But I've noticed that a lot on recent pressings of things that have been catalog albums where the dates are horribly wrong. And I don't know how you go from something that has been out for as long as it has, you know, 40 plus years, and suddenly start getting things like dates wrong on it and stuff like that. But, you know, who knows? Anyway, the album did come out in 1981, and it's the 4th studio album, and lots of great classics. Hold On Loosely, Wild Eyed Southern Boys. It's also got Fantasy Girl, and then the deep cuts on here are just second to none. There's stellar tracks on here. Any one of those could have been hits. So should have had this in the collection a long time ago. But 38 Special for me had always pretty much just been a greatest hits band, having a few different things and a couple of their reunion albums. But I'm digging back in now and getting some of their older stuff and really enjoying it. So here's one last Lynyrd Skynyrd studio album that I didn't have. Second helping from 1974, their second one, adding it to the collection and turning out to now maybe even become my favorite of the original lineup. This one here kicking off with Sweet Home Alabama, but also having, Don't Tell Me No Lies and, Don't Ask Me No Questions, Working for MCA, Swamp Music is on here, The Needle and the Spoon, Call Me the Breeze. I mean, just hit after hit on this thing. And to be quite honest, I didn't pick it up. I was never a fan of the front cover, and I just kind of always passed it by. Wanted a little bit more, so I picked it up, and it is quickly becoming my favorite album. So just goes to show you don't always judge a book by its cover, right? And then wanting more Lynyrd Skynyrd, but not really being much more for me to pick up, I have ordered some additional compilations and things off eBay that'll probably be in next week's when they arrive. But picked up a live album, Southern by the Grace of God, the tribute tour. So this came out in 1988, and of course featuring the newer lineup at the time, but Johnny Van Zant, Ronnie's younger brother, singing. And actually really good. And I tend to like live albums that were recorded in the 70s or the 80s, ones that were from arenas, the ones that have a lot of the screaming behind it, but is a more homogeneous style sound as opposed to the ones today where they're done in much smaller venues of only a few hundred or a few thousand, and you end up hearing people individually. So that is at least why I went ahead and picked this up. If you know that I sometimes say I'm not a big fan of live albums, and generally it's the ones that are of those smaller venues where you hear the individual fans screaming, and that's a little distracting to me. But this one here was good. I really like the jamming. There's some extended jam sessions on it that made it worthwhile. There's a lot of cool guests on it. Steve Morse from Deep Purple, and of course Dixie Dregs is on here, along with other people. But it was just a great lineup of guys too. So there you go. And 6 new music finds for this particular episode number 60. And certainly, as I mentioned, related video, I'm going to leave a link to that Aerosmith brand new archival release in the description if you want to check it out. And certainly if you've enjoyed the video, consider sharing it out on social media. Help spread the word that way. I would also greatly appreciate it. But hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye-bye, everyone.